And we're live. Hello, I'm Eleanor Slumba, one half of Collaboration Superpowers, hosting today the virtual coffee with the United Kingdom. And virtual coffee means we are also drinking real coffee. So we will have a contest later with the mugs. Jurgen Appelo is connecting for the Management 3.0 workouts, and I'll turn it over to Jurgen.
All right. Thank you, Eleanor. So thanks everyone for joining, and in particular Helen and Antonio. And as with previous hangouts, previous virtual coffees, I would like you to use 30 seconds just to introduce yourself. Who are you, and what are you doing? So let's start with Helen.
So hi, I'm Helen Morton, and I'm one of three founders at a tech startup called GameV. We produce computer games. The clue is meant to be in the name, but I feel stupid saying that. And we're also running a conference called Spark the Change, which is about new and radical forms of management based on the fact that we ourselves are an employee-owned company with no managers.
All right, sounds great. And when is the conference, by the way? You're allowed to say that.
Oh, I'm allowed to say that? Okay. Oh, yeah, we're not the BBC. It's the 3rd to 4th of July in London, and we've still got a very few tickets left, so I would be delighted if some more people were coming. And you can hear the lovely Jurgen, among other wonderful speakers.
Amazing. I look forward to that, hearing myself talk. So thank you. And Antonio.
Hi. Hi. I'm a business consultant. I live in London. My business is based in London. I help entrepreneurs to develop their business abroad, in new countries, new market. I come from marketing and management of big company like Fiat Auto and so on. And I'm a business consultant since 2004. And now I help mostly Italian entrepreneurs at the moment to land in a new country like England or North America.
All right. Okay. So you're.
I would like to improve my business in several other countries.
Right. So you're a perfect person to talk to hear the outsider's perspective on learning more about the United Kingdom. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you both for joining. We might have one or two other people popping up later, but we'll see if that happens. And let's start with my first question. I'm going to host a workshop in the United Kingdom in London early July, just before the Spark the Change conference, and the workshop is confirmed. And I always have some questions to get to know the locals a bit better. So my question for you guys is, what's happening in the UK right now in terms of organizational transformation? Any good things that I should know about? Helen, can you share some local news?
I mean, there are some great pioneering companies in the UK, especially in London, in Tech City, and I think in some ways actually a lot of organizational restructuring is coming out of tech, out of some of the agile and lean work that's been done very much in IT. And people have been thinking, how can we spread those benefits, those different ways of working throughout the organization? Now, don't get me wrong, because I don't think that's an easy task. Making your organization agile, making your enterprise lean is quite hard, and it often requires much more radical transformations than a lot of companies are prepared for. However, there are some real leaders in the UK doing that. Redgate Software is one, and you'll find them indeed at Spark. There are other companies that are perhaps more European, like Handelsbanken, who have a very interesting structure, but who are growing very much in the UK, partly because they've avoided a lot of the problems of banks that don't have that more radical structure. And I'd also say the UK has a good, strong history in the cooperative movement and in employee ownership. So you'll find big companies in the UK like John Lewis, and also, companies like the Cooperative Bank and other manufacturing industries in the north which are employee owned. And all of those provide a really interesting base for doing things differently within the UK. But I think it's young, new tech companies that are going to really lead the way in much more radical management restructuring.
Okay, and why is it that these changes are often emerging in the tech companies? Do you think? Because I've seen that I've heard that not only of the UK but elsewhere as well. What is it with those companies that they experiment with new management styles? Do you think?
I think there's two real reasons for that. So one is the competitive environment in which they operate requires you to work incredibly fast. You need to make decisions very quickly, and fast decision making is actually normally not made very well by a hierarchy. The second part of that is that you also need to attract and retain the very best talent, and a lot of your talent, knowledge workers, it's creative people, it's people who are much in demand. They tend to like to work independently with autonomy. They want to make their own decisions. Again, that means you can't really manage them in this traditional command and control fashion. I often think that's actually a little bit simplistic, but there's no denying that that competitive environment means that, especially in tech, they need to be investigating new ways of working. And the second reason is, as I said, that a lot of work has happened in tech around agile and around lean and understanding the need to fail fast, fail often, fail early, and all of those things are supported by autonomy of the team, by a network structure rather than a hierarchy, by a lot of the kind of ideas that we've been talking about in terms of radical management.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Antonio, what's your opinion? What have you seen happening in the UK since you've been there that might have stood out to you as a outsider and now an insider in London?
Yeah, as I told you, I arrived in London in January, so that my experience in I'm sorry, in that environment is not so deep, it's not so good. But I tend to agree with Helen by most of she says. I have a client of mine who want to develop his business in training courses in England, so that I'm looking at that market now, and by the great figures, UK market in training people is one of the huge, the greater in all Europe. So that investment in training people, management training, is one of the greater in all Europe, except Germany maybe. But anyway, it's a great market. It's a market in which a company invest money to develop talent, to develop skills of employee, of management and operative people too, I think. This is what I feel at the moment. By other side, I'm not involved in IT. I work mostly with manufacturers. So that is, there is a different approach. I tend to see manufacturers are a little bit behind in management development than IT companies. But what I'm feeling, also manufacturers need to change their approach to hierarchy and to decision making, so that that market is following the new approach, the new style, management style, which comes mostly from IT companies.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. My own thoughts about that are that in IT historically we've been faced with the pressure from customers being able to continuously change their minds and want new things even on the day before delivery of a new software product. They have always been able to ask for yet another feature and yet another change, something that you would never imagine doing when you're building a house or something like that. The software is much more malleable than traditional manufacturing products, and this has increased the stress also on the way we manage those processes.
It's a much faster market. It's a faster.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But do you feel, Antonio? I was just talking about it this morning with the participants in my workshop in Sweden, that 3D printing is having an effect on manufacturing and is going to increase the pressure on manufacturers to come up with new management styles, because there will be whole new ways of manufacturing products that have formerly been made on assembly lines and now can be printed piece by piece by individuals. Do you think this has an effect on management as well?
Yes, I think so. I think also traditional market become much faster every day.
All right.
Competition put entrepreneurs company under pressure. Most of the effect come from IT. IT market create every day new feature, new tool which allow people to work faster and improve the effectiveness every day. So that nowadays we can do much more things in the same times than we could do only 1 year ago. So that we can follow that environment improvement much faster than competitors can do.
Right, right. So, sorry, Helen?
I was just going to say, and that often means running our companies in a different way. The much larger, monolithic companies that could take time to plan, that could respond with kind of great thoughtfulness, you simply can't run yourself that way anymore. And indeed, if you do, you get taken over by a new, smaller, hungrier competitor who can completely destroy your business within, a matter of a few years. So
that's the reason in which mammoth die because too big can move themselves fast.
And I think we will see that with 3D printing and a lot of manufacturing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we agree that there's a lot of change happening, and it might be that IT is leading the pack, but manufacturing is following, and other industries as well. You mentioned banking as well, Helen, where there is experience in some banks, including Handelsbanken. But what are the obstacles in what that you have seen in the UK? Is there any theme that you have recognized across organizations that makes it difficult for them to embrace that new, if I may say, paradigm?
Yeah. Oh, we love that word.
Yes, everyone uses it.
I think one of the real problems is the mindset shift is very difficult because people are convinced of a set of myths, of false shibboleths about a different style of management. So whenever I find myself talking to people about flatter management structures, about greater autonomy for teams, they sort of panic and they say, oh, well, that means anarchy. It means nobody's in charge. It means decisions will take ages to get made. It means employees will just go off and do whatever they want and they'll spend money stupidly. And you have to keep trying to persuade them, no. The reason we're making these changes is not because we're idealistic hippies who want to cuddle every morning in a stand-up. No, it's because it enables us to make decisions faster, because it enables our employees to often do things for a lower cost, because they're more cost conscious, because they're more aware of the financial situation of the company, because they have better information, because we are more transparent, because we don't keep information and resources hoarded away as some kind of secret perk for senior management. So trying to get people to see past the myths, to understand the genuine pragmatism that lies behind a lot of new management theory is, I think that's the key to overcoming it. And I will be honest, though, that there will always be some people, I think, who end up losing. Now, my theory is if they carry on as they are, I think they will be out-competed. I think they will lose everything because the organization will die. But if they change, some senior and middle managers have to give up some of the very comfortable authority that they have had for some time, which is to a great extent unquestioned. and they have to work in a very different way, and that can be a painful process. I'm not denying how painful it is, and I think it goes right back. You know, it's not just that the company has to change, we also have to change how we look at our education system. I've been meeting and talking to a lot of very young people looking at entry-level, you know, work in Tech City, and they're used to a very hierarchical way of learning at school. They're used to being told what to do and being told what to learn, and the shift to having to take responsibility and being expected to be responsible for, you know, essentially a profit and loss and deciding what features you're going to work on. That is really challenging.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
big
you have
change the culture, change the education.
yes. Right. And I'm sure you have noticed as a co-founder in GameFi without management that people might struggle taking up responsibilities that historically they have entrusted to management, and would prefer even managers to solve for them. That's a big mindset change.
We haven't suffered too much from that because we're like a big red London double-decker bus with a big sign on the front saying "No managers, employee owned." So the only people that get on our bus are people.
Yeah, they already buy into that when they hop onto the bus. Yeah. I understand.
But I know other companies that have really struggled. Yeah.
Right. And okay, so and Antonio, with your Italian eyes, if I may say, what did you notice when you came to the UK in terms of what it is that the British are struggling with? Anything particular that stood out to you in terms of organizational change?
I can't notice a real experience right now, but what I start to feel is a different approach. Sure, I come from an environment in which entrepreneurs and managers are afraid about lose the guide of the organization. Drive the organization is matter to know where the organization have to go, and drive people to do the right choice, to get the right choice, to do the right things every day. That's the reason in which hierarchy exists.
Yeah.
I agree with Helen. It's matter to change. How to change and change the hierarchy first is a great change for management today. Nowadays. But anyway, we have to be aware. Management is much normally it's old men, old people, not very young.
Yeah.
And the habits to guide, to lead people, it's difficult to change. It's very difficult. Why I need to drive people, to say people what they have to do? Because we have no confidence, trust each other, in which what is the mission of us as one, as organization, like one, not a matter to get decision completely alone every day in a direction. You have to choose, you have to decide. It's matter to know you as a guy do the best inside what we agree. It is our mission on the environment, on the market. If we share the real trust each other about what we have to do in the market, but it is the core of the difficult. This is the core of the challenge. Trust each other about what we are, what we want to be in the market, and do the right things in that direction altogether. I think this is a challenge in UK. Mostly a challenge in Italy too, in French and wherever I work.
So okay, well, I recognize that, and but one thing that you said, and Helen also pointed out, was about the people needing to change their mindset, and you referred to or earlier generations. I may not use the word older, but earlier generations who might have a vested interest in the status quo. Sometimes I have the idea or the thought: is it worth bothering convincing people to change? I mean, we find these obstacles, and always people say it is so difficult to introduce change in a hierarchical organization. There's so much resistance of the system. And sometimes I think, why bother? Why not just start from scratch elsewhere and let that old system die? Because that is what it deserves. It would mean much less work. Well, that's the evil me, perhaps, sometimes. Though, and other times I think I want to help people. I don't want them to be forced out of their jobs. I want to help them do a good job, and help them see how you can change that part of that hierarchy into a network. What is your opinion there, Helen? I think I already know, but I just want to hear you on that on that thought.
Change or die is a very good slogan, isn't it? So, yes, I think there is always a kind of a basic thing of natural selection about business, that you learn to respond, you do well, and different business models compete with one another. And there is no question that a very hierarchical business model has its place. Under some circumstances and in some industries, there's nothing wrong with it per se. It can work. I don't believe that we are in those competitive circumstances today. So I don't think it's a good model today. I don't think it's a good model in a global, especially in a tech enabled marketplace. But companies that exist have huge amounts of assets. They have assets in their experience and the talent of the people, and indeed in the systems and the customers that they have set up. So allowing that just to die is actually extremely wasteful. I think it's wasteful as a country and as a society to allow that to happen. So yes, I believe that businesses need to leverage those assets by adopting new methods. And of course, the encouraging thing is that most businesses want to and are trying to. They're often blocked by really quite small stumbling blocks when you really examine them that can be moved and can be shifted. And we can learn from one another. We can learn from the best. That's the whole reason we organized Spark, was to bring together a community of people who are struggling and are striving and sometimes failing and sometimes succeeding, so that they can discuss those things and we can learn from one another. Because there is no one solution. It's not like you can just learn a new process and plaster that on and the world will be fixed. You have to think critically about works within your environment, within your industry, within your company, with the kind of team of people you have, and indeed with what you want. Wouldn't it be lovely if all those people that peddled processes were right, but they're not right? You have to think.
Oh, that's such a pity. I would have loved to just install a tool, Helen. I want to just unwrap a tool and install it and have it change my organization, preferably when everyone is gone in the evening, so they come back to my next morning and we have a new business.
Now, that is the danger of what we've inherited from IT.
All right, so let's, by the way, I always forget, let's have a quick show of coffee mugs, because we should show everyone what we're drinking our coffee out of. Actually, I'm drinking tea because I'm having a conversation with the UK, so I thought I'll pour myself some tea. Look at that. All right, this is very nice. Because I have a boring white one. I'm in Sweden after all. That's the minimalist design thing here in Sweden.
Well,
nice and white.
Has a selection.
This is probably very, very expensive. Okay, so my next question. Sorry.
This is London Ale. This is London Ale.
Oh, this is nice. Oh, this is nice. Nice flowers. So my next question, I think, is a good one for Antonio. So I will be in London early July and organizing a public workshop. And what can I expect as a foreigner working in London? I am so curious to find out. What is it that I should take into account working with the British? Can you shed a light on that, Antonio?
What I feel is real Londoners, true Londoners are disappeared. We have much more foreign people than true Londoners. I don't know, I'm sorry,
All
Helen.
So there are no British people in London.
I don't know where. There are very few.
Okay, the foreigners have chased them out.
Are you voting UKIP, Antonio?
Okay, so and Helen, what's your opinion there? If I do a workshop in the UK, what should I be aware of?
Well, so I mean, obviously, there's the crucial question: have you got enough real ale involved? Never mind this coffee nonsense, Jurgen. You're in Britain now. You need some proper real ale. However, I think you're perfectly placed, because I think a lot of people in Britain have been reading about the theory and are sometimes very responsive to it, sometimes very dubious about it, and what they really need is the practicalities. Because when people talk about culture and mindset, it can sound so absurdly airy-fairy, and Londoners in particular loathe all this kind of, we call it wafting about. Can't be doing with any of that. We want some practical stuff. What does that actually mean? How do I change culture? What do I do on Monday?
Okay, feet in the mud.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Okay, good.
And
so
I think we can share more between London and foreign people and improve both our skill, our competence. It's not matter to divide, but it's matter to merge culture.
All right.
And I think London has a great soul, because it's one of the more melting pot city in the world, in Europe, sure. So that I think the great value of London at the moment is exactly that. It's a melting pot of different cultures, different people who come and work here together, developing a new culture.
Okay, that's nice indeed. So it's a very diverse community in London, with people from all over the world. Yes, I
very well. Londoners, I like it. When Londoners said no problem with with them. I like to work with and I tend to say thanks, Londoners, because we are in their city, we are in their home, and and I think if we accept each other and we merge our culture, can only be available for both.
Yeah. All right, that's nicely phrased. Thank you. So okay, so that gives me an idea what to expect. And is there something that the UK or London specifically can teach the rest of the world? Do you have an idea there, Antonio? What can the world learn from London or maybe UK?
First, we can start from this point: melting pot of culture, and create a new approach to work together to create new approach to the commitment, how to motivate people from different culture to work together and to share knowledge, and how to create business from diversity.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And Helen, do you agree with that? Do you have something to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the thing that London has and that Britain has is a real investment in our tech industry and a real investment as well in entrepreneurial drive of startups. Working in Tech City in London is undeniably an enormously exciting place to be. There are huge numbers of startups, of young Spanish, Italian, French, German, Polish students sitting in Google campus with their laptops out, coding away, writing up their business plans.
Absolutely.
That is fantastically exciting. In terms of how that is going to revolutionize the rest of British industry, well, I think that's where it comes to a question of people will have to wake up to a new way of doing things or they will be outcompeted. I know under what difficulties startups work, because it's so hard to get investment, it's so hard to find people, and yet there is such a burgeoning startup life in London that I think other companies need to take note of that. I mean, indeed, you can see they do. There are so many big companies that are often sheltering startups in order to try and borrow some of their brains and their creativity so that it works in a symbiotic relationship. And I think that kind of creative thinking is leading the world. I would not be surprised, however, there are some things that Europe and the US are doing better than the UK, and I think the UK needs to be completely aware of that and be utterly open to learning from companies that are doing better. There are some fantastic companies in the US that I follow, that I look at, that I watch their new techniques that they're using, especially in structure and organization, and also in Europe. And I would like to see the UK setting up a bank to support employee ownership and to support investing in companies that don't have a traditional structure where there's a kind of an immediate short-term shareholder payoff. I think that countries that have done that around Mondragon, and in the States as well, have seen some really spectacular gains, and I'd like to see the UK do that.
Okay, yeah, me too. Me too. So last question, and I think we can sort of answer or address this question together, Helen. This is about how do we get people to in the UK to change the world, and I think the world of work, and then specifically, and I think you have the same mission with Spark the Change as I have with Happy Melly and with the Management 3.0 brand, trying to help people live happier lives in their work. So how do we get people in the UK involved? What would interest them most in order to fire them all up? What have you noticed?
Well, I mean, first of all, of course, I would say this: they should be.
Oh, good.
They should be reading everything that we're writing about it and watching and getting involved with the different companies. It's as simple as this, really. The companies that are experimenting and succeeding with different ways of working need to publicize that, need to talk about it to people, and need to encourage others to learn from them. It is a community. We do all succeed better eventually together if we're in a strong entrepreneurial, exciting economy where everyone's sharing the wealth better, and where society as a whole, I believe, is sharing that wealth and encouraging the potential of more people within it. So with that as a kind of perhaps slightly idealistic vision, I'd say it's underpinned absolutely by the pragmatic successes of companies that are recruiting talent and holding on to it much longer, and doing so at a much lower cost base. I'm not trying to pretend running efficiently isn't important, because it is.
Okay, well, that's a great insight. Thank you. And Antonio, what do you think? How do we get people in the UK involved in changing the world of work? What's your opinion?
I think everything starts from motivation. How to motivate people to work better, to find themselves motivation in what they do. It's only applicable to how to change the work world. I think what I see around me is people are looking to a possibility to grow, to support their personal growth. if we offer people the possibility to improve themselves, their skill, their knowledge in the work, it's a great factor to support motivation. And it can also support the wish to change the environment around them, because they want to improve. They want to improve first themselves, to become something other, something better in future. And it can support also the culture to change the world.
Right. Okay. I like that very much. So basically, you're saying I should not ask how I can get people involved in my effort to change the world, but what can I do to help them improve and achieve their goals, and on the way they could help me change the world. That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Antonio. All right. So well, those were my questions. Let's get back to Eleanor and see if there's anything popping up on the social networks. Then we might have time to address it, and otherwise we'll just wrap it up.
Well, we have a viewer, Paul, who says, "Bring back the empire." Only joking, and he reminds us that our viewers also have the soccer match on another screen, for sure.
Oh,
because that's
good. I'm curious to know what is more exciting.
Oh no, let's not invite that.
Oh, Jurgen does.
Abused.
Jurgen will invite that. So we hope that all the soccer fans aren't too upset with us for the scheduling conflict, and an extra big thank you then to those who showed up. Let's have a show off of the mugs again.
What happens?
Helen,
there she is.
And she's back.
Well, you know, Helen showed us a little earlier that have a show off of your mug again, Helen, with your artwork, an original piece of artwork.
Water.
Yeah, painted by the daughter. Okay.
And frequently repainted.
Very nice, very nice.
Very nice.
Antonio, yours?
This one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well,
British. And
very British. Very British.
Looks very British indeed.
However, you've already won one of our prizes. You won because you were the first one signed on to the call, the How to Change the World book by Jurgen Appelo. So we're going to award the coffee to the original piece of artwork that Helen brought in on the scene. So,
yeah, congratulations.
I drink a lot of coffee, so I need that.
Yeah.
We want you to be well caffeinated in the days leading up to Spark the Change.
Yeah, and I need it.
Right. Oh, and by the way, there's one thing that I think the UK can teach, or particularly London can teach the rest of the world, and that is when I'm in London, I can find coffee on every corner of each street.
Also black corner.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is something that is not so much happening in other parts of Europe. But Brussels is catching up, I have to say. They are catching up, but by lagging years behind London still.
What I see is indeed in every hours of the day there are always people who eat. Early morning up to later night, there are always people who eat pizza, pasta, everything. Yes. For us, we eat only at some hours, from 11 to 12 to 2 o'clock. But
That's
not at
true.
4 o'clock eating pizza or pasta.
The world doesn't care about Italian traditions. I can have my cappuccinos at 10 o'clock in the evening. I don't care.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But when I do that in Italy, they start laughing at me.
No, they can't. You can't have that, Jurgen. It will ruin your digestion. Stop that cappuccino now. People get most upset with you.
All right. So thank you very much, both of you, for joining, Antonio and Helen. It was very great talking with you. And Helen, I look forward meeting you early July at the Spark the Change conference, and we'll talk some more and drink a coffee together.
Okay,
Yeah.
and a real ale.
All right. And Antonio, I hope to see you again sometimes as well.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.